Recording in progress. There we go. So let me pull up just a couple additional things. Hitting myself. Okay, so just one or two extra things while we're waiting for those last people to come on in. Okay. Happy Saturday. Good morning. We have a fairly small group today, so I'm going to encourage people to participate either in chat or by reaching out just verbally. I do have a slideshow, so I will be sharing that as well, but hopefully it won't have just all the material. Let me just that's awesome. Okay, we're going to get started then. This morning, we're going to be talking about Moments of Truth, which is a tool that Toastmasters clubs can use to improve member experience, improve club quality, and help everybody reach goals in a more economic fashion. So I'm actually an econ major. I was an econ major a zillion years ago. When I say an economic fashion, I mean that we're making sure that the effort that we're putting in actually gets reflected in being able to reach goals. So there's an objective way of measuring our successes. So Moments of Truth has to do specifically with reaching out to people and being able to make those those specific contacts, whether it's reaching out to people and having them join the club brand new, whether it's reaching out and having people during club meetings, whether it's making sure that officers are stepping forward. These are all different points of contact. We will also talk a little bit about some of the documentation that supports these goals and supports how we're going to get through the process of Moments of Truth. We're going to talk about how the member weighs into Moments of Truth. This is not an officer-only process. And we're going to talk about some different formats for Moments of Truth, because depending on the size of your club and how much time you're able to dedicate, there's a bunch of different ways that we can develop Moments of Truth to make sure that your club has those abilities to improve different facets within the club. So that's our overview of what we're going to be covering. So again, points of contact. What are the first impressions that your guests have? Do your guests actually have somebody friendly reaching out? Do your guests Can your guests find you? Is your website up to date? There's also, as a new member, what happens? Is there member orientation? Do they get a mentor? There's talking about fellowship in the club. As an existing member, what kind of teamwork do you encourage? What kind of socialization and networking do you encourage? Program planning, what kind of meetings do you have? Are people getting burned out? Are they boring? Membership is a fairly objective metric. How many people do you have as members? How many people are sending you those checks? And how many people are attending? And what kind of recognition do you offer for people who are reaching their goals and some club suggested goals? How are you giving people those pats on the back? So those are the main points of contact that are addressed in Moments of Truth. The supporting documents include materials like your club success plan. Now, club success plans are often a little bit more executive committee oriented. We know what the distinguished club program suggests, and how are we trying to reach those specific goals. Frequently, clubs also take a new member survey or a membership survey. And then there's the more immediate input, stuff like surveys that are from SurveyMonkey, Doodle, or Google Forms, being able to bring in member suggestions ahead of Moments of Truth, finding out what they want to do with the club, finding out what their feedback is. Because as executives, we frequently have a different perspective than what our members might have, just because we have a different set of information that we're working with. We know about distinguished club programs. We've been in the club for a while. We might be invested in tradition, but our new members might have different experiences that can give us additional ideas about how to reach goals and how to improve club quality. Another reason surveys are a really good way of bringing in those suggestions is that some people join Toastmasters to improve their confidence. And if they haven't already improved that confidence, it's important to make sure that even people who tend to be a little bit more introverted or a little less aggressively opinionated, that they have the opportunity to share that feedback. And surveys tend to be a little bit safer for everybody. Other concepts to consider are member goals. What is your club demographic? Do you have a lot of new members? Are you newly chartered? Is it a corporate club? Is it a community club? Do you have a lot of senior members? Do you have a lot of young people who want to do networking? Do you have a lot of people who really just enjoy sharing stories as part of their speech giving? Lots of different goals can come into play. Also, what path have people chosen? There's presentation mastery, which is all speeches all the time. And there's the humor path that, again, is speech oriented, but almost everything else has different projects that encourage people to try different types of communication and leadership. So it's not just presentations. And that's going to affect their goals as well. Another reason that we want to take these surveys is because it's going to bring in more member buy-in. If you're in a corporate situation and all of a sudden the CEO says, yeah, this is how it's gonna go. We're gonna bring everybody back to the office immediately, whether you want to or not. These are the rules. You have to do this, that, and the other thing. And you're just out in the cold. Getting that member buy-in, encouraging their opinions, encouraging their participation, it's going to encourage those members to be even more active and invested in your club. As you might know, if people don't feel as invested in your club, they're less likely to participate. They're less likely to attend. They're less likely to pick up on meeting rules, and it's a little harder to get them to reach their goals. The member contributions from surveys and participating is that you gain more ideas, more suggestions, more discussion, and more input about how to aim your club. We often hear about diversity in different industries. And on the one hand, those are buzzwords sometimes, but when it works, it means that you're not just bringing in a bunch of people who have the same background. If you have an executive committee that has a bunch of seasoned Toastmasters who have been around for more than a couple of years, you know, maybe they're really used to how things have always been. But by bringing in those newer members, getting their feedback, getting their suggestions, you're getting new options to make your club even better. So Deborah asks about if we have survey question suggestions that we found to be impactful. What I'm going to suggest is that depending on how you format your moments of truth, that's going to determine what kind of questions you ask. Moments of Truth actually has a series of different documents that are available. And using those different documents, you get a better idea of what are different topics that you can reach out for. And they give you some really basic, they give you some really basic suggestions on, you know, what you should focus on, what you can start by suggesting, specific topics. But again, it's going to have to do with how your club wants to progress. Once you get that approximate feedback, you can drill down a little bit. So if you start with the 6 topics that are those contact points, and your members tend to think that you're doing really well at 3 of them, you would want to focus on the 3 that you're not doing great. I've had very few clubs that would do an absolute full spectrum moments of truth with all 6 contact points and every single last point of information available for discussion. Because frankly, that's going to take multiple meetings. It's going to take multiple, maybe outside of club events. So these are all different challenges that encourage clubs to maybe focus on the points that you have the biggest concern over. What you might want to do is work using the moments of truth breakout information, which I just put into the chat, and find out which ones people might want to make changes with most. So you can use that with different surveys like SurveyMonkey, just using the specific topics themselves. You can ask people verbally, you know, what they would like to focus on during a club meeting. And you can ask people specifically what things haven't gone smoothly. If you have brand new members and they don't know meeting rules yet because they haven't gone through a new member orientation, it's possible you need to concentrate on what do we need to do about new member orientation. If your club only has 7 members, and there are quite a few clubs in our district that only have 6, 7, 8 members, maybe talking a little bit more about how to do membership and encourage that. And maybe that very first point of contact, get that feedback. So to answer the question, I don't have a list of best questions because every club is so different. And sometimes those questions, you can do it verbally. You can just discuss among the group, the whole club itself, what they think needs to be covered versus having a complete top-down 36 question survey. I included two documents. One is a handout including the general overview of Moments of Truth, and the other one is a little bit more of an in-depth perspective on Moments of Truth. And I will also be sharing the information I have in my PowerPoint. So the format of the Moments of Truth itself can be selecting the top questions that you choose to work on, and you can either do a separate event, and we've done that at a couple of my clubs. We've decided to get together on a Saturday and everybody brings food, we hang out, we break into different groups and start talking about what we would like to see and what we'd like to change and what we don't need to change. That's an option. You can break it out so each specific topic you want to cover gets a good 15 minutes of discussion during the meeting, and have that like every 3 or 4 meetings, take one topic, move along and progress over the course of a few months. Another option is going to be the stop, start, stay option, where you take one meeting, but you cover it in about a half hour, 45 minutes. You talk a little bit about the different things that you do under that topic, and you drill down really quickly. What do we do well? What do we need to change? What do we think isn't giving us a really good return on our time investment? So they're all really big topics. So, and Molly, if you put your email in the chat, I can send it to you if you did not receive those. And they're also available on the Toastmasters website under Moments of Truth. So I'm going to quickly switch this up a little bit and start my screen share. So this is, I cheaped out. I'm gonna admit it. I cheaped out and I went with the non-Microsoft version of software. When you're thinking about your moments of truth, you're going to start out with, what is your club mission? And a lot of people use that perfectly adequate and wonderful generic club mission about, we provide a supportive and positive learning experience in which members are empowered to develop communication and leadership skills, resulting in greater self-confidence and personal growth. It's something we can all get behind, definitely. However, some clubs have tweaked their club mission. We are committed to providing our members with a fun environment focused on accelerated growth, where courage, confidence, and charisma become your greatest assets on the path to becoming a better communicator and leader. Some specialty clubs definitely add in some additional material. We want to serve the district by being advanced Toastmasters, or we want to develop better sales techniques, or we want to develop and evaluate humor. These are all different chunks of the club mission for different clubs in our district. This is a good starting point. Are you reaching that goal objectively? One way of determining that is through the Distinguished Club program. Check it. It just told me that the participants can see my application, so I haven't moved forward. It's still there. Most of us have access to the, we all have access to the Distinguished Club program page, and you can see if the past year or two, you may have struggled with membership. We all have, frankly. But do you see that your club members are reaching goals? Are you offering great meetings that support your mission? Are you attracting guests and converting them to members? And now it doesn't want to move forward. This is awesome. Okay, that's great. I need to find where my I'm going to change where I'm sharing. On a stick. So this would be a technical issue, but we should be fine. Here we go. Okay, let's hope this works. So the very first chunk is, actually, this is what this was what I started talking about earlier. This is one of the handouts I put in chat. It is a club quality standard evaluation, and it breaks out the 6 points of contact, first impressions, member orientation, fellowship, program planning, membership, and achievement recognition. Each of these points of contact with the club isn't just some nebulous point of contact. It's not just some theory. The fact is, it's where the rubber meets the road. It's where our members, where the public, where other officers all come together and have contact. And some of the tasks are things that clubs don't always do, but frequently these different tasks fall under a specific purview. So we're also going to talk a little bit about that, because we are all officers. Many of us are officers, and we want to make sure that we're all taking responsibility. So first impressions. And again, if I'm not making sense, I encourage you to please stop me and just shout out. This is informal, but I want you guys to have some really solid information to improve your clubs, because you know what? Even the best clubs can improve. Membership. So first impressions, there we go. Guests are greeted warmly. In this time of Zoom, there isn't as much warmth, I'll be honest. Do you have a way of tracking guests? Do you have a solid Zoom presence or in-person presence? Is your meeting location something that all people can use? Are guests invited to address the club, especially at the end of the meeting? And are they invited to join? So when you think about this, shoot. I am not sure what's going on with my.
Theresa?
Going backwards. It seems to be on a timer. So if guests are greeted warmly, you have the ability in Zoom to chat with people in the background. And that's something that you can't always do easily when you're in person. So leveraging Zoom can be a good thing. Guest book and name tags, you can ask for their email or you can have a registration on your Zoom. Professionally arranged meeting room can also mean having a Zoom master who can consistently improve, making sure that everything is going according to plan. Convenient meeting location isn't just making sure that you have a physical location or a Zoom location, but be sensitive to your community and or your members. One of my clubs actually did go out and start meeting in person because they took surveys and people said yes, and then they didn't show up. So all of these are objective things that some of it you can figure out just as a part of discussion, but some of this is going to be, are your guests greeted warmly? Are they? Do you do an exit interview? Sometimes offering an anonymous survey to your former guests who never came back can give you some information you hadn't considered. Oh, I didn't come back because my job changed. I'm not available at that time. There's not much you can do about that. I didn't come back because nobody said hi to me. That's something you can do about. I didn't come back because your location is in a really difficult to get to place, and there are strange rules in place that I'm not comfortable with, whether that means they require masks or they don't require masks. Frankly, that's something we all need to consider at this point. Offering hybrid meetings can sometimes give you the best of both worlds, but it's a lot of effort. So these are all different points that you would want to find out either from former guests or from current members about what might be things to improve upon. Membership orientation. Do you do membership orientation? Do you have a new member program to help people get integrated into Toastmasters, whether it's the culture of your club or the meetings, the meeting rules, the educational segments of your meeting, or reaching their goal? Even encouraging members of all tenures to try something new and step outside their comfort zone? Do you have a formal induction? So it's a big deal. Welcome to our club. Actually, it's on the previous slide, but do you ask people to become members? You know, you did a great job at table topics. I think you would have a lot of fun. Would you please consider being a member? Here's our application. I think that we can really help you reach your goals. You mentioned that you really want to get ahead in public speaking so you do better at your job. I think we can help you with that. Would you consider joining us? Hey, you said you would like to join us, but I haven't received your application yet. At which point you might find out, hey, the treasurer doesn't have an easy way of making sure that we can get money quickly. So treasurers in the audience, step it up, reach out to your treasurers and ask them to make sure that the getting of the money is not a roadblock. Member orientation. Does your club have a mentoring program, formal or informal? Do you talk about pathways? I'm going to be honest. I frequently hear clubs talk about pathways before members even consider joining. And, just saying we have all of our material online is a really perfectly acceptable way of introducing pathways. They don't care that we used to have books and it used to be way cooler. Pathways is a solid way of people reaching their goals, and having it online can be seen as a convenience. Having that option for paper booklets is also something that might work with others. Sharing that information is fine.
Can I throw something in on that quick, Theresa?
Absolutely.
For the pathways too, a lot of times I've seen people start talking about pathways, and someone who's a brand new person to the club doesn't care what the program is called. What they care about is what the program is. All you have to say is we have an educational program called Pathways. It gives 12 different options or 11 different options, or many there are, I can't keep track. 13? It gives you 13 different options, and it's a mix of speaking and leadership skills. So there's got to be something here for you. That's all that your average person needs to know, unless they have questions.
Yeah, they don't need to know that we used to have a different program that ended 4 years ago. So, I mean, I love them. I love the books, and they can also provide additional supplemental documentation if you still have any of it. But the fact is, Pathways has the vast majority of that stuff now. So, one other point for membership orientation, do you have accommodations for people with disabilities? Sometimes it's going to be, do you want to keep that location that requires stair climbing? Sometimes it's, do you have different colored cards that actually has a Y, R, and G right on it for people who have color blindness? That's a thing. Sometimes it's making sure that you're using, a decently upgraded form of software so they can have the transcription turned on if there's a hard of hearing situation. Lots of different ways. One thing is, when you're doing that initial new member orientation, new contact, is asking the member, hey, you've been to a couple meetings. Are there any situations we can work on? Can we help with anything? Make sure that you're working with those members to give them the best experience. Speaking roles assigned. Reach out to your members and find out when they're available for a speaking role, or even just other support. Sometimes saying, hey, are you ready to do your icebreaker next month? It's going to get them to think about getting that done. And then make sure that there's either a formal or informal mentor available to give feedback and support. This doesn't all have to fall on the Vice President of Education. There's a whole club that's a team to support this effort. And make sure that your new members are involved in all aspects of club activities. If your club gets together for coffee after the meeting, invite everybody. If your guests want to join, definitely bring them in. It's a great recruitment method. If you get together for fun events, invite everybody as often as possible. I'll be honest, one of my clubs has a specific game that they play once a month, I don't want to play the game. It's okay that I'm not included. But if we are getting together as a club, yeah, I want to attend the Speechcraft. I want to support my club doing, we did a Friday night fun night holiday event last night. I wanted to take part. It's important to be a part of that team and encourage people to step into that. Let's see, next. So as a heads up, I do only have, okay. It looks like we only have about 15 minutes left. Fellowship, variety, and communication. So again, greet those guests warmly. Make sure your meetings are enjoyable. It doesn't mean that every meeting needs to have a theme, but occasional themes can really switch it up and make it fun. Themes are frequently determined by the Vice President of Education or the President. However, with those themes, it involves the secretary reaching out to all the members to encourage them to participate. It can involve the Vice President of Public Relations, because many of those themes might be attractive to the community. It could reach out to the Vice President of Membership to make sure that you are getting everybody engaged, all the new members, all the former members. Reach out to your Sergeant at Arms if there's something special needed, whether it's in person or virtually. You can do breakout rooms for a meeting. So all of these different options are available. Regularly scheduled social events. It happens less likely because people can't always get together, and Wisconsin has winter for 6 months of the year, but picnics outdoors can be super safe and fun. When you have a virtual event, whether it's playing online Jeopardy or just getting together to have fun, definitely it's an option. Bring in friends, and it doesn't have to be just a cloistered club event. It can be a recruitment tool. Inter-club events are encouraged. So we've seen a couple meetings where multiple clubs will get together and share a meeting. That's definitely an option, especially if one of the clubs is small. I think one challenge that I've seen though is if you're having one of these shared meetings, it means that only one club has their Zoom account there, and any guests might be more likely to visit that club in the future. So be careful about that. Members participate in area, district, and international events. We have area contests coming up. Make sure members aren't intimidated by the idea that it's a contest, but it's a chance to get together and hear other people. It's a chance to step outside your comfort zone and try something new. It's a chance to do something fun. That works also at district. Our next major district events are going to be in May. International is next August. I think it's in Kentucky. It should be fun. It is a definite opportunity for networking. And do you have a club newsletter or website? And that's where your VP of PR and secretary come in again, making sure that communication works. All of these different points aren't just best practices. These are opportunities to improve the communication within your club and outside your club to attract people in. And if you have a smaller club, you have to pick and choose a little bit about what you want to emphasize and focus that energy on. And that's where you're going to be bringing in people's opinions. But these are all, especially if you have a larger club, go full barrel. Program planning and meeting organization. This is largely the Vice President of Education's domain, but with a lot of input. Publicize that agenda in advance. Make sure people know what they're doing during the meeting. Make sure your projects and speeches are all, and it says manual projects, that's so cute, pathways projects. Make sure your meetings begin and end on time. Don't just, oh, we're going to wait for people to show up. No, get started. If people aren't there already, get moving and have somebody reassigned. Respect your time, respect others' time. Creative table topics and activities, whether it's a theme for the whole meeting, whether it's a larger speech occasionally, fun table topics. The sky's the limit. You can do this. Come up with all sorts of different things. And there are projects out there in Pathways that encourage people to do not just those 5 to 7 minute meetings, but there are projects that encourage people to try stuff that's new. And positive and helpful evaluations. Evaluations aren't an afterthought. They're actually the difference between being Toastmasters versus practicing all your speeches in front of your cat. So make sure that members have a solid background in evaluations, and that's an option. Bring your members aboard to do an evaluation program. Membership strength, this is fairly objective. It's not an opinion. 20 or more members, that's ideal. I'll be honest, I'm in a couple clubs that are fewer than 20. It's not fun. You burn out, you get tired. It's frustrating. One bonus of a smaller club is there are a lot more speaking options. Last year I completed 10 Pathways levels because I spoke frequently. However, I would love to have different evaluators, and I would love to have other people step up and do different themes for meetings. I would love to hear additional speakers. That's the beauty of Toastmasters. There's different speakers coming in and sharing different information. Retaining members, do you do exit interviews? If you have a former member, or if you have a couple former members who don't renew, send out an anonymous survey and ask them, hey, why? And sometimes it's going to be something objective like, we just had triplets. Sometimes it's going to be, you know, every meeting's the same and it's a little old. So listen to that feedback. Sometimes people just make things up, or sometimes there might be a personal thing going on. I'll be honest, I took a membership survey of former members, and a couple people left the company. It was a corporate club. A couple people said that they just got promoted because Toastmasters gave them those skills. One person said, I didn't like the president, blah, 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 blah. Well, I was the president and I knew exactly who it was because of the feedback he specifically shared. So, you know, once in a while, ignore some of that. I still need to listen to make sure that I'm not perpetuating that behavior. But some of it, if somebody is promoted because of the skills they learned in Toastmasters, those could be your raving fans. Those could be people that encourage other people to join. So keep them on your team, even if they're not paying dues. But make sure that you're taking feedback from active members, making sure that you have those interesting programs. Themes, different types of speeches offered, different types of programs, making sure people who are working on upper level projects are bringing that great experience into the club. People who sponsor new members should be recognized. Here's a shout out, here's our new member, and this person was brought in by, how did you do it? I ask them to show up. Whatever works. The strongest way to bring new members in is one person asking another person. The other material we have helps a little bit. You know, having that social media presence means that people who really want to do Toastmasters, you know, they can find us. But the strongest successful method is asking people, hey, I'm doing a speech tomorrow. Could you please come and check it out? Hey there, we have a theme tomorrow that's talking about holiday cooking. Could you check it out? Yeah, do that. Bring people in. Regular membership building programs. We have 3 programs during the course of the year that offer happy little ribbons if you reach 5 members during those 2 months. But just having a membership program, having that contest within the club to bring in the most guests, that's a great start. And achievement recognition. Everybody needs different recognition. Some people really like having their name in lights and having articles in the newspaper about how wonderfully they did. Because frankly, yeah, if people are reaching their goals, that is wonderful. Some people just want to sit back and get that high five or get that quiet, wow, you rock. Hey, Todd, welcome to Moments of Truth. Did you want to share something? I'll give you a minute to come on out. Making sure that member achievements are appreciated, whether it's completing a level, whether it's doing a first speech, whether it's really mastering a meeting rule. All of these things are different ways that we can reach out to individuals. So all of these different points of recognition and points of contact are things to think about when you're organizing your moments of truth. So these are a couple different options that you would probably do well to have. There is documentation on Moments of Truth at toastmasters.org. The Mushiara Toastmasters Club /pathways URL has a great updated pathways matrix showing how to which paths have which specific options for different projects. And then for membership input, you can use doodle.com. You don't even have to have an account. You can use SurveyMonkey, and they've restricted what they allow for different surveys. It's less flexible than it used to be. Google Forms can be an option, but some corporate clubs don't allow access. And if you're doing just regular Outlook email, there are voting buttons available. Also, let's see, what's the last thing? So that's the Moments of Truth summary that we just used. And I do want to point out that with some of the projects that you can award your members include Level 4, question and answer, manage projects successfully, manage online meetings, question and answer session. And then there are path-specific projects like managing change, leading your team, leading in difficult situations. At Level 3, there's communicating change, negotiating the best outcome, reaching consensus, and understanding conflict resolutions and successful collaboration. There's also the HPL. And all of these different projects are available to credit your members who support a Moments of Truth in your club. I'm going to put my email in the chat. I know that this was like the 50 bazillion foot overview, but if you have questions, I would love to answer them. And if you have them in the next 30 seconds,